So we always like to talk about the cool bikes that we worked on, but sometimes you got to work on bikes that are not so cool. You'll notice that some of these cable housings look super old, but some of them are marked Jaguar for some reason. Believe it or not, this Huffy actually has internally routed cabling partway through the frame, coming out down here under the bottom bracket shell. The one-piece bottom bracket shell. So I live in pretty inexpensive apartment, and a lot of my neighbors are, either undocumented or illegal, depending on which political aligned person you happen to be talking to. As far as I can tell, they all work at the same Mexican restaurant a couple of blocks away, and they've all got bikes, and the bikes tended to be the most dilapidated things you've ever seen, like just hammered. And so that particular bike, they were trying to air up a tire, and I went out. I was outside taking the trash out or something, and I ended up spending like an hour and a half trying to make this bike even vaguely safe to ride. It's like it needed a tube and air, and it also needed several cables. The front derailleur cable wasn't connected at all. I had to cut some new cables and housing for this thing. I had to correctly route the cable and housing down through the down tube. For some reason, this Huffy has internally routed cabling partly. The front brake was actually bent wide open and just sort of hanging from the frame. I had to bend it back into shape, which of course, since it's pot metal, was relatively easy, and align everything and fit a cable to it and make it work. So they bring me all their bike problems now. If one of them gets a flat tire or whatever, and I try and just be a good neighbor about it. The other night at like 10 o'clock, the one guy's got like a big cruiser with the super high wide handlebars, like angled way up, and his stem had just given up on grabbing, and I think the stem bolt had snapped. So I tried replacing the stem bolt, and I couldn't get it tight enough to grab onto his handlebars, and I finally ended up just replacing the stem with another 1-inch quill stem out of my box of stems. I actually ended up giving them one of my spare floor pumps to use for this kind of thing, and one of the bikes, believe it or not, that was not the least safe bike that they had. One of them had like a little BMX bike that was having all kinds of problems. I donated a set of the only brake pads I had that would fit those types of brakes was like an old set of Ultegra brake pads. So this guy had Ultegra brake pads on his little tiny BMX bike that he was riding to and from work, and it was like a coaster brake rear and a U-brake front. I think he actually got like an Ozark Trail mountain bike now, so he's got a halfway decent bike to run to and from work. And then another one of the bikes was one of these really super generic department store full suspension bikes, and the front wheel, I'll try and find a picture of it because I know I took a picture. The front wheel was tucked under so bad. I mean, this bike had experienced some kind of a collision where the front wheel was tucked under so that it was almost touching the frame. And I I ran down to the local bike co-op, Key City Bike, and I was like, look, if you guys got a donor bike for this guy, and I showed him a picture of the front wheel, and they were nice enough to donate a Huffy mountain bike with like 27.5-inch wheels and disc brakes, and it didn't need a lot to make it safe, and I just gave it a quick and dirty tune-up and gave it to him. And with the language barrier is pretty severe, but with instructions to please throw away that old bike before somebody gets killed. So yeah, one of those bikes has Shimano SLR brake housing now, because I try to use good stuff on my own bike, so that's kind of what I have laying around. So I've gotten some tubes for the guys. I've used some of my own brake cables and derailleur cables and housing, and brought some of these very dangerous bikes back to some semblance of function. And you know, I say all this not to toot my own horn or try and sound like a great guy, but you know, if you got neighbors, you know, wherever you happen to align politically on the whole immigration thing, it costs next to nothing to help out a neighbor, and these guys are super gracious for the little bit of help that I was able to give them with their bikes. And to be fair, I can't personally look at a bike that's that jacked up and not try and intercede. So yeah, not all the bike work is glamorous. Sometimes you have to try and, you know, turn a sow's ear into a silk purse, so to speak. I should shoot, you know, the drive side of the bike for glamour shots, right? So here it is. I saw that bike parked out there, and I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. It just reminded me of that day. It was like a super hot day, and I had that poor little Huffy in the stand for like an hour and a half. You know, I had to lubricate the spoke nipples and try and true the wheels a little bit, and just everything on it was just hammered. So yeah, and you know, they've been super gracious about it. Although the guy with the cruiser bike that wanted me to fix his stem was just completely drunk when he asked me to fix his stem and handlebars. And he does not speak a lick of English. He was using Google Translate to try and communicate with me what was wrong with the bike, and I ended up taking my little green Alfresca and riding over to the Mexican restaurant where it was parked, and then just balancing it, you know, holding it with my offhand, and then riding my bike with one hand, and just rolling it back over to the apartments. And like I said, I tried replacing the bolt in that stem to get it to tighten correctly, and then I ended up just throwing a different 1-inch quill stem that was basically the same exact item on there, and we got his handlebars to finally stay put. So anyway, it's been kind of too cold to get much done out in my unheated garage, so I thought I'd tell a story instead today. So I hope you found that at least slightly entertaining, and thanks for checking out my channel, and have a great day.